Right. You got everything?
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah.
That look nice.
Thank you.
All right.
Got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black man. Everything you see from a black man. Everything you read ain't where it began. Ain't no history for African, American, America. Brung us to the land and tortured us. Jealousy is near when you look like us, but like Rosa Parks. No more back of the bus to get it. Black power, black power. New one born every half an hour. This generation believe in drama. We believe everything but what's ours. Black power, black power. All these riots, black power. Don't stay quiet for the black power. Trayvon Martin, that's black power. Mike Brown, black power. Eric Gardner, black power. Sean Bell, black power. Malcolm X, black power. Dr. King, black power. Sojourner Truth, black power. Harriet Tubman, black power. Jordan Davis, that's black power. All my life never felt sour, cause a lot of things invented, that's ours. So they made us work for that black power. Now you make them work for this black power. Potato chips from a black man. Your light bulb work cause a black man. No traffic lights from a black man. Even an ice cream scooper from a black man. Black power, black power. Your cell phone from a black man. A doorknob from a black man. A dustpan from a black man. Your elevator from a black man. Your refrigerator from a black man. You see that stove? A black man. Even the mailbox came from a black man. Black power, black power. All my women, black power. Unity from black power. Communities where your black power. Black power, black power. You not black? Black power. You think you not black? Black power. State the facts. That's black power. That's black power. Black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power. Black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. You bugging, you killers, and tell us be quiet. What? What? You did what you want, now we gon' start them lies. What? You say you don't mind and I don't give a What? You be on their side till they passing you up. Passing you up. Black power, black power. Focus on life, stack commas. Avoid drama, but stay righteous. Protect what's yours, boys and girls. Condoleezza Rice, black power. Colin Powell, black power. Maya Angelou, black power. Mae Jemison, black power. Ella Fitzgerald, black power. Hattie McDaniel, black power. Holly Berry, black power. Sidney Poitier, black power. Millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker, first billionaire. Robert Johnson, the 03, Oprah Winfrey. All I'm saying is black power. Michael Jackson, black power. Michael Jordan, black power. Mike Tyson, black power. While we fighting, black power. Rodney King, black power. Puerto Rican, black power. Dominican, black power. Even Mexicans, black power. Old Harlem, black power. Haitian, black power. Trinidad, black power. Asians, black power. Indians, black power. Where it began, black power. Jesus, black power. You need us, that's black power. You bugging, you killers, and tell us be quiet. What? What? You did what you want, now we gon' start them lies. What? You say you don't mind and I don't give a What? You be on their side till they passing you up. Passing you up. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. All my life got black power. Whoever talk a light, that's black power. See me in it there night, still black power. Black power, black power. Music.
Woo! 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 What's up, family? What's up, family? Welcome to another edition of Thorough Black Talk with your sister Keisha, your brother Tad, your brother Ashe SJ, along with our weekly correspondents, Sister Marcia and brother Blacksmith, giving you the 1-2 punch. Brother Tad and Brother Black getting ready on the back. Give me the thumbs up. Give me the thumbs up, Brother Tad. Brother Black said we ready to go. We ready to go. We ready to go. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Peace, sis. I'm Gucci. I'm Gucci. I'm Gucci. Brother Blacksmith, salute.
Peace to the family, y'all. What's up? Let's go straight in. There's a lot to talk about. You already know.
Blessed and highly favored, as
Yes,
Brother
ma'am.
Tad always say. Blessed and highly favored.
Amen. And
See y'all.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You know, we do have a lot to discuss tonight. You know, we're going to continue our conversation from last week. You know, Brother Tad brought up, well, we both brought up Brother the great Asajifu Kwame Nkrumah last week. And I said, you know, we're going to pause on that a little bit because, you know, Thorough Black Talk, we like to dig into the history around here. You know, we like to dig deep. You know, you never know what you're going to uncover. So that's why we are thorough. And that name came from our brother Ashe. Always remember that. Ashe came up with the name Thorough Black Talk. Brother Tad and Brother Ashe, because we were on straight Black Talk. And Tad wanted to keep the Black Talk. And, you know, Ashe said, we ain't gangster, but we are thorough. And that's how we came up with the name
How about thoroughly gangster?
Here you go. Didn't I say we not gangster? I'm telling Ashe,
right.
You being a bad hombre.
Hey, listen. Before we, sis, real talk. Before we go in straight off, we got to give a word out there for Brother Panic. And I don't know what happened there. Do y'all know? Anybody know what's going on?
No, I don't know. What happened?
He passed away.
Position this morning.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Brother Panic.
Wow. That's a huge one right
there.
there.
Yeah, it is. You reminded me of it when you said Kwame Nkrumah.
Wow. Condolences to the family. I didn't even know that. I was off the grid today, pretty much. You know, doing my little research and whatever. But wow. Wow. Let's have a moment of silence for Brother Panic. For real, for real, for real. Yeah, Brother Black, we got a lot to discuss. You know, we're gonna let you kick it off tonight. But before we do, want to give some announcements real quick.
Okay.
SWAP's annual coat drive. It has been postponed until November 12th. The coat drive has been postponed until November 12th. Same location, Therapy Wine Bar. Bring a gently used coat for a man, woman, or child, and we are going to deliver those coats to the Wynn Family Shelter here in Brooklyn and continue to take care of our own. In this time, our people are getting pushed further and further back of the line. And, you know, we have to remember that there are those of us who need our help. So if you have a gently used coat, drop it off at Therapy Wine Bar. That's Therapy Wine Bar 2.0 in Brooklyn, and receive a free glass of wine on us. How about that? So come through, pull up, you know, and hope to see you all out there helping us to support our community. So again, the coat drive has been postponed until November 12th, Sunday, November 12th, hours 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. So before we get started, this is still the celebration of Black music, in particular hip hop. We can't forget, we got to remember and tell our own story. So this came across my timeline earlier this week. I don't know who sent it to it. I think it was Brother Tad who may have sent this to me. But anyway, KRS-One tells the story of when he was with Boogie Down Productions and South Bronx came out and it was the #1 jam on the radio, but he was living as a homeless man. So I'm not going to tell the story. Let him tell the story, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it. Hold on, family. Here we go.
I told my mother, I said, I'm going to be an MC. So as the time goes on, when I hit about 16, I left home for good. And I lived on the streets of New York from 16 to like 21. I'm on the E train, sleeping on the E train. I'm sleeping in the World Trade Center. I had South Bronx and Bridges. I was still homeless. I would be sitting there like this. I'd be sitting there at the edge of the train like this, and people would have a boom box. They be blasting South Bronx. Yo, you hear this new shit? Yo, listen to this stuff. And I'd be sitting right there because then there was no video, no magazine, nothing. You put out a record, no one knew who you was. So I'd be sitting right there, record South Bronx. I have to be completely like just like this because I don't want no one to know or see or even think. This is me. The guy you think is large and all of this, he's right next to you, homeless, with no money, no nothing. Sometimes I went to sleep, I woke up, and it'd be like $10 in my lap. 12 years old, I told my mother, I said, I'm going to be an MC. So as the time goes on, when I hit about 16, I left home for good. And I lived on the streets of New York from 16 to like 20.
I thought that was a very interesting story about him and his time and his come up in the hip hop movement. You never know someone's backstory, but that was very, very interesting. He also talked about not he, but Big Daddy Kane talked about how KRS-One and him having a close relationship. And when his hit came out, he was moving out of his mother's apartment into his own basement apartment. And it was KRS-One and Miss Melody who helped carry his furniture to his basement apartment. So we got to tell our own story. So I thought those stories were intriguing. Brother Black, your thoughts on KRS' story about, his come up and being homeless?
Wow. Having been homeless for years myself, even more relation. And, I always knew he had spent a stint at being homeless, but I never knew he was that, that long and during his, fame era, because he wasn't successful. He was still homeless, though he could have been, if you consider him successful as an artist. So never knew that. Wow, that's crazy. Wow. I mean, I'm floored by that one.
Right. So, and he trained and nobody knows who he was, because remember, family, this is before internet, and social media. So, very intriguing story, Brother Tad. Your thoughts?
Now, I love it. I love it. I remember the times. I always tell people, when you want to talk about 70s, 80s hip hop, I was there. I used to rap years ago. And what deterred me, because I knew a lot of these rappers didn't have any money and the streets were more alluring. So I chose to stick where the money was, and that was the streets. But I do like the story of him and Big Daddy Kane, because many people may know or may not know that Big Daddy Kane was down with the Juice Crew. And KRS got his start by dissing the Juice Crew. But he wouldn't diss Big Daddy Kane because, as you said, they were friends. And KRS even said that. He was hoping Kane didn't jump into the beef. And I think it was Fly Ty who wanted Big Daddy Kane to jump into the beef at the defense of MC Shan. But MC Shan didn't like Big Daddy Kane. He's always called him the new N, the N-word. Like, yeah, get the new N to do it. Because Big Daddy Kane was one of the last to join the Juice Crew. So he felt, him and KRS was cool. And that beef was going on before he even got down with the Juice Crew. Because I believe it was 1986. And Kane got down with the Juice Crew about 87. Yeah, about 87, and his album dropped in 88.
Right.
So yeah, there's a history of hip hop that seldom get told, where artists would keep their disagreements and beef on wax. And when they see each other, it was all smiles and fives, Nobody had to die over a record. But now it's like, it's a far cry from there right now.
Yeah, but don't forget that, though Kane didn't have beef with him, and we know from being back in them days that when you said rap beef, it literally didn't mean the guys were going to fight on sight. Right. It had nothing to do with that. So people hear that now, they think, and that's why Biggie made that song, Was Beef.
Yes.
But
salute the Big.
Yeah, but by KRS doing what he did, he was, and I'm not going to get into the Bronx Brooklyn thing today, but what I'm saying was he was in the Bronx.
Don't do it to yourself.
Don't do it to yourself. I'm just
made
a mention of it. What I'm saying is, that he was in the right place at the right time to do damage. I believe KRS-One is the first one that in my purview that I know of that was like battling like with that not hostile battling, like I'm trying to take out the whole crew, and he did it when he said Roxanne Shante is only good for steady pumping. So, you know, and she had beef with him. And remember, she from the bridge, so she not even from Brooklyn. So, you know, if you from New York, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. But the thing with KRS, the point I want to drive home is the whole manifestation process about it. Believing in yourself, visualizing what you want your life and future to be. I think it was last week before last, when Sister Keisha played Kanye, and he was talking about we got to stop with the victim mentality. And a lot of times we run around like we can't do something. I think I posted, I forget what the brother name is, and he was talking about we are supposed to succeed despite racism. Though racism exists, and we're not going to deny that it doesn't exist, we still have to succeed. That's our birthright. We owe it to our ancestors who did so much more with so much less. And KRS-One done that. Because imagine how humbling it has to be. You got a big record. This is something you always wanted to do, despite your mother's support. Yes, that's it, sis. Despite your mother's support, you still went out and lived your life to your best ability. And you won. And we need to let young people know that you can do what it is you want to do in life, as long as it's positive and productive. Don't let nobody deter you, you know, but you have to have a clean mindset, you know, cleanse your aura, like do things for the right reason, not just because you want to stun on somebody, because that's the ego talking. And once the ego takes the lead, you're doomed to fail. Look at all the dead young rappers now. You know, God bless their soul, but that's what it is. And Sister Keisha, real quick, before you play this clip, I saw another video. It was talking about racism and white supremacy. And I always have to let people know racism is real, white supremacy is fictitious. And people say, well, Tad, how is white supremacy fictitious? How is it fake? And racism is real. Because racism is a built-in system that is used to oppress people who aren't white. That's a real thing. It's a real system. We see it in the judicial system. We see it in housing. White supremacy is an idea that white people are supreme, that they are better than. That is not true. It is far from the truth. So there's a difference between racism and white supremacy. White supremacy is fake. Racism is real. Just had to put that out there.
Absolute facts, brother Tad. And to your point, I have another clip that ties into what we're all going to be talking about tonight after we give the floor to Brother Black. But let's play this clip that Brother Tad is talking about with Dr. George Frazier. So hold on one second. Here we go.
Times I believe that Black people are searching for a key to an unlocked door. That the door to opportunity is wide open and will cost you little to get in. The resources necessary to succeed in this country as Africans in America are here. We have everything we need to succeed except each other. We have money. Oh, we're not poor. We're just broke. Our money goes in one direction away from us. We've taken the art of consumption to a whole new level. We don't sell anything that we purchase, and we don't make anything that we buy. We just consume. We are $1.1 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we would be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. I've traveled to every place that Black people have been dispersed, brothers and sisters. I've been to South Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, all over North Africa, and all over South America and the Caribbean. And there are no Black people in the entire world doing better than we are. Sometimes I believe that Black people are searching.
Facts. Facts. There you have it. Facts. Facts, family. You can't make it any more plain than that. Kudos to Dr. George Frazier on that quote. But we can't sit in victimization. That will never work. That will never suffice. In fact, when you look at how we are raising our voices around the world, not just our voices, but our political might and our economic might, right? You have a plethora of Black businesses and Black people who are now moving into manufacturing, right? And we are patronizing those businesses, which is pulling dollars from other institutions. Think about the influx of migrants as I speak what I'm saying to you right now. You have to also remember that when you have a people who um, connect um, intellectually and historically, that can be very, very dangerous, which is why you had um, colonial powers and Northern American powers to colonize all of Africa. There's a reason they went into Africa to pull the best of us out of it, to build their institutions, to build their nations. We have to always, always remember that. But um, new African leaders are rising up on the continent and saying no more to these European powers. They wish to now make these European and Arab powers pay for the resources that they have been stealing from Africa for centuries. They have been stealing. But tie that into our voices here, those of us who are championing reparations, those of us who are championing for us to clean ourselves up, to get our homes and our mental in order to prepare for the future. Tie that in with those in London and in Germany who are raising their voices and saying no more oppression. So something is happening. The African spiritual ghost is waking up all of us, whether you want to believe it or not. Many of us are tuned into greater information. Black people are leading as far as propaganda is concerned. When it comes to our people, we just have to sift through the nonsense and understand that even though we are winning in many arenas, that the enemy never stops. The enemy fights on all fronts 24/7. So our fight has to be 24/7, right? The five of us who come on this platform, we could be doing a whole lot of other things on Thursday evenings, but we understand the importance of sharing information and conversing with our brothers and sisters around the globe. Shout out to everybody who watches us from the continent, in the Caribbean, in South America. Our second leading market is that of Atlanta, North Carolina, South Carolina, outside of New York being our number one market. So remember, family, not just thorough Black talk, but all of us who are in Black media today, I've always said that we are pioneers right now. And so don't see this as a small feat. It is very monumental when you look at the blueprint that our great leaders like um, the great Dr. Nkrumah left us, the great Sekou Touré, and so many others have left us, right? We already have that blueprint, but sometimes we can see things as being minute when they are very monstrous. So you have to remember that, family. We are all a collective, and everybody is waking up. No matter where they are on the globe, people are waking up, and this is very dangerous. I want you to keep this in mind as we watch the many trials of former President Trump. I am not a fan of President Trump, but I do understand what's happening. It's bigger than the cases that they are citing against him. This is about free speech. You know, media is growing at an alarming rate. People are getting information at an alarming rate, and they want to stifle free speech. But remember, if they stifle free speech, understand that's what the Second Amendment was written for. This is the reason why they want to take away your firearms, don't want you to interact with firearms. It has nothing to do with mass shootings or individual shootings or anything like that. They will continue to spew that murder and drugs are the number one problems of the Black community and of society. However, the number one problem is suicide. So we got to remember that, family. The mental is fractured. but Black media is here to repair our own. Let everybody else figure out their problems. We're here to figure out our own. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I just wanted to say that. Brother Black, give us the 1-2 punch. You know what you got for us this evening.
Wow. Okay. Well, I sent you some videos over the week, links and stuff like that. The biggest thing that I saw yesterday was there's another caravan that has 5,000 people. And if you know anything about these caravans, as they come along, they grow like the blob. So if it's 5,000 people and they're in southern Mexico, by the time they get to the northern border, or excuse me, the southern border in this case, it'll probably be at least 10 to 15,000. Of course, all of them ain't gonna make it. Some gonna find a spot. They're gonna chill for a minute. Some are gonna be like, okay, I'm getting out of here because ain't nothing happening. So it ain't gonna be 5,000 when they get there. It could be less. It could be more. So that's supposed to be coming. And I find it quite ironic that at least in Chicago, not necessarily in New York, but in Chicago, they're putting them in the Black neighborhoods. And the reason why they're doing that is the same reason why there was war all over the Middle East about 10, 15 years ago, because they wanted military-aged men to go into Europe, and they messed up Sweden and a few other countries. Sweden is pretty much a country that stays out of everybody's business. And for the most part there, the people are happy. In these surveys they do, is rated like the happiest place on earth. So that's not me saying it. But as far as we're concerned in the United States, I believe they're putting those illegal immigrants coming from everywhere now, not just from South and Central America. They're coming from China, they're coming from Africa, and most of them are radicalized. And most of the 80% of them are military-aged men. They're putting them here because they're supposed to get set off like Manchurian candidates and be the foot soldiers. Now that Antifa and BLM has pretty much been exposed. And so they're going to probably try to keep us in check. But, as we've seen in a few cases in New York in particular, going back a few months ago, we've seen some flashpoints, and I'm sure Tad has some others that we probably haven't seen publicly, of things that's happening in New York. It could be something as little as one of the migrants, killing a Black person in the neighborhood, and then it's a war or something going on. So be cognizant of those type of things. Be mindful, and like we always say on this show, keep your head on the swivel and look out for anything to happen, because it's going to be one thing that's going to happen, and everybody going go do what they're going to do. So be ready, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Get together with groups in your immediate audience, and just work on some tactics if you got to duke it out.
Agreed. Family, understand that you're called to do different things, whether you want to believe that or not, right? Those of us who are in tune with what is happening, we are going to be point persons eventually as this thing unfolds, right? So it's very important that we stay in tune with what's happening, as Brother Black said. Shout out to Brother Medina. Shout out to Sister Donna. Good evening to you. Sister Joyce, Brother Monty on the check-in. Aunt Marie, good to see you. Good to see you, Sister Farnessa. Sister Farnessa, I made you a moderator on YouTube. I had to do that because y'all can watch out for the crazies for us over here. Brother Kev, I made you a moderator. Shout out to my brother Kev, my Geechee Gullah brother. I got a video for you.
From Chucktown.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I got a video for you, brother Kev. Tashima wants me to let you all know that the reason why the coat drive is postponed is because of the New York City Marathon, right? A lot of people, it'll be difficult for you to drive in and out of the city on Sunday. So that is the reason why it was postponed. Want to make it easy for everybody. Brother Peace, my Brooklyn brother.
Peace, brother, peace.
Yes, indeed. Sister Tam on the check-in. Sister Tam pulling up to the coat drive.
Salute, Sister Tam. She said you left her out too, of the bike ride.
I know. Tad, she reamed me for that. She reamed me already for that. Tad, I'm telling you, she reamed me already. You understand? She reamed me. I love Sister Tan. For real, for real. Yes, yes, indeed. Big ups to KRS1. A BB for Hodier, you got ripped off. Yes, thank you, Sister Farnessa. Because, some of y'all could watch out for the crazy, while I do everything else behind the scenes. Because oftentimes I ain't got time for the shenanigans. But, let's move on.
Hey, one more thing, Keisha, before we move to the next topic, I wanted to, I forgot to say in my first little segment that there was a fight between, I don't think it got crazy, but there was a fight between some Palestinians at a protest against Hebrew Israelites in Chicago. So these are the things that we got to look for. And I'm sure it was probably based on telling them that that's not their homeland, that's their homeland, the Hebrew Israelites that really know what time it is and who was there before they got there. So I just wanted to put that in there as well. You can go ahead.
Here you go, brother. Black is right here. We move quick with it over here. We don't play no game. This is crazy. This is nuts. Mind your black business. You got nothing to do with you. But I'm not messing with the Hebrew Israelites. Go ahead and do y'all thing. Go ahead. Go ahead with your little Batman costumes. Go ahead and do what you got to do.
Hey, Keish. One day I was on.
Fuck it in the middle and worship the head of lettuce. I don't care. Go ahead. Do what you do.
One day I was on Fulton and Atlantic, right, where the PC Richard used to be at, and I could have sworn I seen a dude that looked just like that saying, "Read."
That's right. I was out there.
Yeah, it was him. He was fronting though.
It was him. It was him.
Making up stories. He don't leave the Bronx. Oh man, Brother Black.
Bad hombres, family. Bad hombres. Bad on. Sister T, you see what you started, Tad? She said, "Yes, Sister Keisha ditched me on the bike ride." Sister Ted, I love you always. I love you.
That was 10 minutes ago.
I love you, sis. She said, "All is love." Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I thought you was gonna be out there, to be honest with you, because you're the one who sent it to me. She's the one who sent it to me. Family, I rely on people like her and Sister Nana Love from Black Girls Do Bike. They post things, and that's how I found out. Brother Tal, are you doing the marathon this Sunday, Brother Tal?
No, I'm not doing the marathon this year. I haven't been training. I got to get back to training. In fact, I just unearthed a whole bunch of medals the other night, and it was just crazy. I said I kind of miss it though. I say I miss it now, but hit like mile 20, mile 22, and I'll be like, what am I doing out here again? I ran 3 marathons, but I'm gonna do some more again. I'm gonna do some more, get back into it. I kind of miss it. You get this thing called runner's high when you're out there training, and I mean, it's beautiful to be outside, just, taking care of your health, because when you run, you release all type of endorphins, and it really makes you feel good, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, letting you know that you're accomplishing something that you thought was impossible. But as we know, there's no such thing as impossible. Some things are not probable, but definitely not impossible. We can do anything we really put our mind to.
Absolutely, brother. I always say I'm in the second phase of life, Now I'm moving on to other things. I've done things in my first 50 years of life. Now I'm on to the second phase. This is my other life.
That's right. That's why I'm right there with you, sis.
That's it, brother.
Age of things,
Oh, of course.
No more, no more frivolous arguments with people who are unread, unstudied, people who don't have enough life experience to even not even qualified to engage in a conversation.
Facts.
Come on, you talking hypotheticals and ifs, and no, I'm telling you what it really is. Most people don't even understand human behavior, how people operate. You know, people with their
Yes,
perceived
indeed.
power, perceived prestige, and they get $2 over lunch money, as my grandmother said. They think their stuff don't stink. So, you know.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that one. I'm gonna use that one. Thank you, Grandma. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna add that in my repertoire. But shout out to the BK William Mackey History Club. They had Dr. Lewis last night again, part 5 of his Africa series. Off the chain, man. I came home with my study guide. He provided like pages of stuff. He provided 10 pages of stuff I had to go through last night. I was up to like 1 o'clock in the morning. Thank you, Dr. Arthur Lewis. But you know,
Yeah,
the
I think,
information was
and
great.
salute to the family at the William Mackey Study Group, because what they do is important. Is you know, listening to Brother Mike Gray's presentation, you know, it just agitates and reminds you. He sends out a lot of reminders and make it relevant from our ancestors and historic figures that we know the names, but we don't know the works and the conversations they had, and made it relative to, you know, to the things we see going on today, the murders that became high profile murders, you know. So salute the big brother Mike Grays and
Yes.
brother Ray and everybody over at the William Mackey Study Group.
Yes, indeed. It's funny you brought that up because I'm going to play a clip from that later on tonight. So YouTube, don't start with me. You know, they gave me permission. Don't start with me. So don't start pulling stuff. They pulled our broadcast with Dr. Phil Valentine,
Get
but
out.
I knew that was coming.
Mm.
I knew that was coming. But that's YouTube for you. But
Did they
so
give you a strike?
no, I didn't get a strike.
But they
But
like censoring the information.
right.
That's YouTube's play right there. And real quick, you know, it shows we was talking about the Constitution. What they doing is making everything corporate. So corporate entities don't have to abide by the quote unquote law and the Constitution. It could just be in their policy. We know Google and YouTube are the biggest search engines, and a lot of information is here. So once they get the sense of that, like when the last time somebody bought a set of encyclopedias or dictionaries, we don't even buy them things anymore. That's why they could change the language on it and put them, they, he, their, z, their, and all this other crazy stuff. You know, this is real
Fact.
on how they're literally changing society right in front of our eyes. And they dumbed us down so much. And I think, Sister Keisha, we talked about this back in 2012, 2013, something like that. You know, just on how they're able to dumb everybody down.
Yes.
Arguments were stupid. So stupid to the point that we don't know the difference between a man and a woman. It gets no more basic than that. We know there's male plants and female plants. We see it in the animal kingdom. Why us is supposed to be one of the most intelligent species on the planet? Why we don't know that basic science of the innie and the outer. One goes in, one like one receives. Like yeah, roll the next tape.
Tag getting frustrated now. They're making it bad.
I'm getting flustered.
But funny you brought up language, right? And in culture. We have to remember our language and our culture and how we communicate with each other, right? Bothers me a lot is that when I see other ethnic groups come up to one of us and when we're using our own verbiage, what does that mean? You know what it's none of your business.
Right.
It's none of your business. It's how we communicate with each other. You have your language and we have ours. But not too long ago, about 10 years or so ago, I started researching my mother's side of the family, and I was able to connect with my great grandmother's siblings, descendants, and finding out our Gullah connection, right? As a matter of fact, the first family reunion I went to, there was a ceremony with the African drum, and this whole Gullah twang. We had a lesson in that at the family reunion, and in speech and how we relate to each other with food and other things. So I saw this video and I thought we should play it. So this one's for you, Brother Kev. Hold on, here we go.
Always tell the young people, mine some trouble gonna come up in life, and the old people used to say that's water. When you dream about the water, trouble come up in your life. When the wind blow, dream about wind blowing, you could be kind of ain't know which way for time to go. Because our ancestors could interpret dream now. You go with them with a dream and say, if you dream about, you see any fish? When you ask the gal girls, you see any fish? And if they say, yeah, the old people say, oh, gal, say, you pregnant. When you dream about the fish. Yeah. When you're a little girl, you're a legal. That was the word. And when you grow up now, you're a woman. You're a woman, big woman now. Woman. Done coming to womanhood. So many of them would teach you those things, and it's just very interesting what we learn, what we hear, and what we do. And it pays respect, like I told you, every June 2nd Saturday in June, we go to pay homage, especially those ancestors that didn't make it, And we do a remembrance service. We talk about them. Then we gather fruits and flowers. We put it in a big baby blanket, and we put it overboard to remember them that didn't make it through the middle passage, was dead when they arrived and got here, because many perish. And I always tell the young people,
Understanding our story is very, very critical, right? Prior to me learning about my Gullah heritage, we in the United African Movement would have these yearly trips to the Gullah Festival during the Memorial Holiday weekend. Every Memorial Holiday weekend, we would take trips to South Carolina to the Gullah Festival. In fact, one Gullah Festival, I was asked to speak on behalf of the Central Park 7, and to get people in South Carolina to sign petitions on their behalf. Again, this is another part of the story that you don't know about, that wasn't told in their documentary film. Who were the people that fought for their reparations? Understand that the United African Movement, Sister Keisha, and many others were at the forefront of that. And you mentioned Brother Mike Graves. In fact, Mother Leola Maddox actually wanted Mike to speak on behalf of the Gullah Festival of the Central Park 7 that day, but he didn't want to. And he and Brother Harold were going on their treasure hunt for books that day. So I was asked to speak instead. So let that be known that that's also a part of the story. Those of us who have fought on behalf of those young brothers. So, yes, you got ripped off. I'm a sister for real. I'm telling you, that's my brother from another mother. I'm trying to tell you. But when we would take those trips, they were very emotional for me, and I couldn't understand why. We went to the Yoruba village that they have down there. My daughter and I, we went through a rite of passage there that was very humbling and emotional for me. But I couldn't understand why. And as the high priestess was reading my future to me, I became more and more emotional, right? To the point where I started shaking as she was speaking to me. This is a true story. A shout out to Sister Joyce and Brother Monty, also had a reading as well. So they can attest to what I'm saying. But anyway, I couldn't figure out why. But few years after that is when I found out my family's connection to that very same land. So again, family, you never know where the ancestors will call you to bring branches of family together is a powerful feat, and that should never be underlooked. Those of us who carry the torch of passing these things on is very, very, very important. So I just wanted to bring that out. So again, shout out to the BK William Mackey History Club, we are greatly appreciative of that. Now, last week we were talking about Africa, right? What could be a viable option for some people, because actually a lot of people are leaving the United States, leaving Europe and Canada in particular, and moving back to the Caribbean and through other African nations. So while we were talking last week, we touched on Kwame Nkrumah, and Brother Tad asked me to give a description of who Kwame Nkrumah is, and what he did. And I mentioned he being the president or former president of Ghana, and one who helped Ghana gain its independence, right? But here on Thorough Black Talk, we like to dig deep. And so, we dug deep, and we were able to find out some information to the fact that Kwame Nkrumah has a Liberian connection via his mother, right? We had found some African scholars who talk about Kwame Nkrumah and his Liberian heritage. But I haven't heard, or I had never heard, rather, prior, any scholarship saying such. And so we had to dig deep, and we gonna find some stuff on Thorough Black Talk, and we happen to find this doctor talking about Kwame Nkrumah. So let me play this clip, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it. Give me a second here, family. Here we go. And if you can turn your speakers up, you may have to hear him clearly because the accent is kind of heavy. So hold on.
What they say, Nkrumah so for US. Abba, any other. But very interestingly, Nkrumah Kraba, Wama Ghana direct. No, on your part of the block. Or no by Liberia and no.
We are hearing this for the first time.
Oh yes, Kwame Nkrumah was in Liberia. And Tina, some of us will tell you because I had that's for another thing. Nkrumah, Ghanaians have still not told us the history of Kwame Nkrumah's father. I'm talking about their father as in the real father. Okay, sir, which nationality was he?
His
of course,
father.
He was Liberian. So because
what was the nationality? He was Liberian, his father. Let's continue.
Ghanaian, and yet Nigeria for the Ghanaian but Kwame Nkrumah speech, he never mentioned Ghanaian. He was the one who was mentioning Ghanaian. And then when even he came to Liberia, leading to Obabe joined UGCC for the first in Nkrumah Koyen, Liberia White House, no Misu 2 gate, Bako Black Army Nefaho and Bako White Faho. So we Nkrumah first speech on the soil of Liberia. That are no Ghana. Also, how can a white man come to my own fatherland? Listen to this. I can come to my own fatherland and instruct which gate where black should pass and where white should pass.
That was in Liberia.
That was in Liberia.
Speech,
And make it speech. Until if we check all over the world, land, a country is in the image of a man. So every country is fatherland. We don't have motherland anywhere. But also Ghana, English for no training or colonize or chill English, Ghana is my motherland. Where? But England is my fatherland. Germany is my fatherland. America is my fatherland. There's nothing called motherland
except Ghana.
And history distortions, Ghana for hide a lot of history. Intina, omutimi highlight say be independence do Nkrumah no of away. They no worry no before even Fatty Oma sensa sa family no. They no sa oba no way. The bushia for way oba ne tias.
Dr. Francis Nkrumah am okay.
Yes, they also on Ghana
and the woman Francis Nkrumah
oba man family. They haven't highlighted that. What they say. And Nkrumah had even Sober Watcher, he had one date of birth in August and was having September when. And then even the name Kofi Ria, which was also known in Liberia at the time, where did that name go? What I say? And there were a lot of Ghana history, confusion or Hokaka, but we will not deal that. It will be a long subject.
So, you have to look at things a little bit differently. We have scholarship that says otherwise. And again, he explains the language, right? How the European twisted the language and twisted what their cultural ideologies were, being the fatherland. Nobody started that until Ghana, right? With Kwame Nkrumah, the motherland. We know that he was adopted, right? So again, by his father's second wife. So you have to remember these things. We have to tell our own story and tell it in its entirety, right? But I found that point very, very interesting. Brother Ty, your thoughts on this professor who was saying, and he's not the only one. If you want, I have other sources as well who say that, Kwame Nkrumah was Liberian.
I can't wait to get back to Ghana because I was studying a lot, and there was civil unrest. And in fact, for those who have been to Ghana or may see images from Ghana, there's a statue of Kwame Nkrumah with the head next to it, because people did question his legitimacy about his presidency. Again, like I said, we are learning through all that, so we got to sift through so much through facts and what we know to be true and what we think to be true. So, in fact, the funny story is that they did not attach the head just to keep the story of the Civil War authentic, because they tore down the statue, beheaded the statue, and someone had it for at least 10 years or more, just hiding the head. So they just had the statue without the head. And eventually a lady had it and returned it. And instead of attaching it back, they put it to the side. But there was a lot of civil unrest. Many times when we talk about Africa and our history and our story, this may get a little wordy, so be patient with me. We romanticize it. We fantasize about what Africa is. Even here in America, within the conscious community, we use Kemetic words and then we mix it with Yoruba words and words from other tribes. We don't even have a cohesive language. I've yet to see in modern times, I know they've done it back in the 70s, but modern times, I've yet to see an organization just teach the community how to speak Kiswahili. So that if we're going to talk an African dialect, a legitimate one, let's stick with Kiswahili. Let's learn Swahili. So when we want to use our African dialect, we at least have one that's spoken around the continent, as opposed to speaking Ga, Yoruba, and all these other languages, because we know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different dialects on the motherland. Another thing we do when we romanticize Africa, I remember the last trip I went to, someone just kept saying, oh, I'm from the Ashanti people. My family from the Ashanti people, not knowing that the Ashanti and the Ghanaians used to fight all the time. So you pretty much coming over there bragging that you down with the ops, and you're like, yeah, I'm Ashanti. They would look, okay. Like, what don't mean nothing to them, so there's this romanticized, dudes always romanticizing stuff, you know what I'm saying? And we really have to get back into studying, because we're talking about centuries of stolen and distorted history. And we're not going to get it with a couple of books. We have to be authentic in our learning, in our behavior, and in our search. Sometimes we read one book and we think we got it all. That's called an eponymous identity. You read one book and say, oh, that's me right there. And it's so much more that we have to learn. Me and the singer Anthony David, right, who used to write music for NDRE, right? Dope artist, love the brother, good dude. We had a debate one night after one of his shows. It was funny. We was just backstage and he was like, why do people always study Kemet? Like Kemet is the only place in Africa and we did this, that, and the third. And I had to remind him, I said, bro, our folks do study other regions. I said, but the thing is, we got to start the people where they are. They understand how America works and operates. So we go to ancient Kemet just to show how so much of what America has built itself on, that Kemet was the blueprint. When you talk about the Valley of the Kings, you know, you got Arlington Cemetery to mimic that. When we look at the Sphinx, the Heru Marquette, we see other images that they have around on banks and things like that with their lions imitating who we are. When you see this, the Lincoln Memorial, when you see the Washington Monument, all of that is stolen from ancient Kemet. Even the legal system, you know, even what do you say, Lady Justice, that she's blind, you know, she stole the scales from Mayat. Even the whole concept of angels came from ancient Kemet. And I was explaining to him, that's just one portion of it. We're establishing how this system was built on ancient African society. When you talk about Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, we all know they went to ancient Kemet. So when you talk about the European philosophers, when you talk about Hippocrates being the father of medicine, we know he learned from Imhotep. He says it himself. So much of what we see today is actually ours, but we don't have African eyes anymore. So we think everything is European, and we give them the credit that they're looking for, because we don't know our story. So when we go to Ghana once or twice, we think we know all there is to know about Africa. I don't always tell people that I've been to Africa, how many times I've been to Africa, you know, that I had and sponsored a school in Africa through Mama Eileen. Shout out to her and all the family at the Sankofa Spa and Resort. When she met me, she said, I need a young brother to take over. You going with me to Africa, because all is going to be yours when Mama passed away. So you know, peace to Mama Nzinga. Peace be upon her, who transitioned years ago. You know, I've dealt with people who was on the ground, who took me there, who passed me the torch. And I tell people, I'm authentic in myself. My name is Tad. I'm from Brooklyn. Like, I don't know who else to be but myself. But I was raised in an African village in the 70s when a lot of businesses in our community, particularly Bed-Stuy, was all Black. We don't have to falsify who we are. You don't have to read a book to find out how to be Black. I'm from a Black family. Was born and raised Black. Went to school with Black kids. Got beat up by police for being Black. Had crack dumped on my family because we're Black. Like, you don't need to do all this reading. I mean, you need to read and study. But this is for the super scholars who think they know more than everybody because they read a book or two. There's so much more to learn. And this is the value of what we do, what the William Mackey Study Group does. We bring it to the forefront. We agitate the stains in these cloths that we think we're cut from. And then we bring it up to the forefront, say, here, analyze this, critique this. Because one thing we lack is critical thinking skills. Somebody say something. I look at all the charlatan leaders. I'm gonna pass the mic, but look at all the charlatan leaders that came within the conscious community, not the African-centered community, the conscious community. Because what I knew about the African-centered community is that people literally did work. What we have right now is internet armchair revolutionaries. Just because you see them on camera don't mean they're doing work, because they're not taking people out. They're not going out doing the work themselves. They're not studying this stuff. They're not consulting with the people who are there. How we got African leaders with no eldership? You know, all these pseudo doctors running around. We had a predator in our midst. I always knew something was wrong with Sucker Polite, but he got away for now. You know, all these charlatans was in our midst. Dudes talking about they building schools, but they got felonies. What school are you building? You can't be around children. Get out of here. But people are donating. Dudes talking about they building homes, sustainable homes with trailers, saying donate to me. And nobody busting these dudes' heads. Dudes talking about they could sell you their sovereignty. Police don't got no jurisdiction over you. Just pay $4.99 for my course, and I can teach you how to be sovereign and free. And if you know anything about the European, they don't care about your sovereignty. Every group they colonized were sovereign. People living off the land, no taxes, just communal living. They don't care about that stuff. But if we don't understand the psychology and the psychosis of this enemy, we just playing ourselves. And Dr. Clark said that if you want to learn your history, go study everything your enemy put out there first. Go study your enemy. Then you come back to your stuff, because then you'll learn their strategy, because they pull the same trick time and time again. We seen where they got a bulldozer lifted up a gate at the border in Mexico, got people bum rushing to come in. But if we study, we know that Dr. Claude Anderson said over a decade ago, they're trying to replace Black people. They've always told you in around this time, the United States is going to be ran by Latinos, but they opening the floodgate. But I digress. We got more stuff to talk about. But yeah, just stop romanticizing Africa so much. Learn something.
100. And that's why we keep it thorough over here, so you can learn for real. Sister Marcia, good to see you. How you feeling, sis? What's good? You know, Sister Marcia,
Boaski.
Every night after we done with our broadcast, I rewatch the program, right? You talked about last week about how we have no time to be involved in other people's fight. I'm going to show you, sis, how the ancestors, our mother ancestors, are moving through you and others. I'm going to show you some words that some other sisters said in a little while, because we're going to pause that for a minute, but I'm going to show the family tonight how the ancestors work, and how we all are in tune, whether we want to see it or not. And it's very important that we in media are able to hone in on these things and bring it full circle. But sister, how are you? How your week been thus far?
Busy, and great. It's always good to be busy. Excuse me, I was eating before I came on, so that's the problem. I kept like, oh my God, but one more bite. I had fish and lettuce today. My fish was good. It was really good. But hi family, how's everyone doing? Thank you for having me on another Black Thursday. Yeah, people out here doing crazy things, but I just really wanted to chime in really quickly on the Kwame Nkrumah lineage. I just want our folks to remember the Berlin Conference of 18 whatever, that time when they carved
1880.
and said that they belong to this country and this country and this country, removing the indigenous folks from who they were. So yes, Kwame Nkrumah can be from what is today known as Liberia. But at one time, that whole region was called the Kingdom of Dahomey. And I know, and then you could see like older maps that used to call it Negro land and all different types of things. So what I'm saying is that we are dispersed within the continent. And we cannot just say that we belong to one area, because we don't know. We weren't there 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when they started separating and terrorizing our families. So yeah, he could be from Liberia. What are we going to do about it? What did they do about it?
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because one, I want us to understand that history is very complex. Right. And as you said, when you look at maps and you look at other things, it brings everything full circle. And because we are raised in systems that tells history in parts, so that those who are in control are scathed from the injustices of history, we got to dig a little deeper. But go on. I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely correct, because if we don't, we'll believe one side of the story. We'll believe their story over ours. And if we just, I don't know, recreate the society and think back to before we were and before our grandparents were, we would see the world was completely different. And we have to understand that, everybody was carving their space. The only person that is not, or the only groups of people that is still not carving their space are the Africans on the continent and the Africans over here and the Africans in the diaspora. A lot of us don't reclaim our territory, and we let our territory be claimed. So that's the one thing I can say about the Palestinians. At least they're fighting for their land. They're like, nah, y'all can't have it. And yes, a lot of children and people are dying, but that's the price of war. I don't know how many of us are willing to pay the price of war, but I digress.
Got you, sis. Let's get into Liberia, and we'll talk about a few things. And here we go. Hold on.
Was established in 1822 as a haven for freed slaves from the Americas. Originally named Christopolis, the settlement was later renamed Monrovia in honor of American President James Monroe. Over time, Liberia developed from a colony into a commonwealth and gained independence in 1847. The colony was formerly known as Liberia, meaning the free land in Latin. Liberia is the only black state in Africa that was never subjected to colonial rule and is Africa's oldest republic. Liberia is located along the coast of West Africa. It is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the southwest, Sierra Leone to the west, Guinea to the north, and Côte d'Ivoire to the east. Liberia is made up of 15 political subdivisions called counties. It has a population of around 5 million and covers an area of 43,000 square miles, or 111,369 kilometers square.
First, if you noticed in the clip, it stated that Liberia is Africa's oldest independent nation. Now, oftentimes we are told that Ghana was the first independent country. And this is why it's important, right? Now, I bring this up because Kwame Nkrumah himself talked about it. I happen to find this blog, and it's talking about Africa's and the diaspora's connection to Liberia. I want us to understand that we have to remember that those who came before us already had a plan, right? As I go through this article, he's going to talk about Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré. He's going to talk about Garvey and even Michael Jackson's connection to Liberia. And I believe you sent me that clip, sis. And I'll play that as well. I love that brother's voice. I follow his page just for his voice alone. But sorry, Tad and Brother Black, but it is what it is. But before we get into the brother, Sister Marcia know who I'm talking about. But I want to read this blog that I was able to find. A message to all Liberians. Liberia was the pioneer of African independence, especially in West Africa. West Africa, the diaspora, and the continent won't rise if Liberia doesn't rise. Kwame Nkrumah visited Liberia in January 1953 as the Prime Minister of Gold Coast, present-day Ghana, and spoke to the Liberian Senate. Later, in an interview given to the press, he is noted saying, "Liberia is the pioneer of freedom movement among Africans today." Oftentimes, he would use Liberia as an example of inspiration for his people. He once said, "I judged Liberia not from the heights it had reached, but from the depths whence it had came." Nkrumah wouldn't be the only one. Sekou Touré, the first president of Guinea and grandson of the great warrior Samori Touré, the Wasolo Mandinka Empire, once said, "In the history of this new Africa, which has just come into the world, Liberia has a preeminent place because she has been for each of our people the living proof that our liberty is possible. Nobody can ignore the fact that the star which marks the Liberian national emblem has been hanging for more than a century. The sole star that illuminated our night of dominated peoples. Nnamdi Nzikiwe, the first president of Nigeria, had great admiration for the republic, doing doctoral research on the country and defending the country in his book, Liberia in World Politics. Ezekiel described Liberia as the nucleus of Black hegemony, the soil where the seed of an African civilization was destined to germinate. All of this is to drive home an important point. Liberia played a crucial role in inspiring Africans to pursue independence and self determination. It paved the way for the development of many of today's African institutions. It must play an important role today, not only if West Africa is to advance, but the diaspora and the continent as a whole. Liberia has a unique history that reflects all of Africa and the diaspora. It's history that every Liberian should stand up tall and be proud of. Indeed, Liberia's history is Pan Africanism manifested. Liberia is the only country to have presidents that were African American, Afro Caribbean, and continental. They ranged from Joseph Jenkins Roberts, a mixed race Black man born in Virginia, to Arthur Barclay, who was born in Barbados, to his parents that were of Dahomian origin, Sister Marcia, and Daniel E. Howard, a Bassa man who was Liberia's first indigenous president, born to Thomas Howard and Sarepta Ann. From the very beginning, Liberia was the country on the continent to welcome all Africans, whether they were from other parts of Africa, the diaspora, or indigenous. So now that you have all of these nations, family, who have the year of return policy, know who was first. It was a country it was a country where recaptured Africans and Africans in the diaspora who were facing systemic oppression and exclusion could find refuge. The founding fathers did this with religious conviction. This exemplified the Liberian Declaration of Independence written by Hilary Teague. The native African bowing down with us before the altar of the living God declared that from us, feeble as we are, the light of Christianity has gone forth, while upon that curses the slave trade, a deadly blight has fallen as far as our influence extends. All Black people should see themselves in Liberia. Every Liberian should see themselves in Liberia. Every African American, every Afro Caribbean should see themselves in Liberia. Our contributions and our unity made Liberia the beacon of light on the continent. There is a reason for the star on the Liberian flag. We are the first republic in Africa. For over a century, we were the only one. We helped create the Organization of African Unity, which led to today's African Union. We spearheaded the African Development Bank. Liberia's significance can't be overstated. European colonists knew the significance of what Liberia meant for African sovereignty and self-determination. Noted of Liberia that Europeans felt that the Republic was a constant beacon for African nationalists and was therefore suspect. Liberia showed the world that Black men could govern themselves. Liberian people, especially the children, should understand and embrace just how great they and their ancestors are. They need to know about the great Pan-Africanists, James Jenkins Dozen of Gola, and Vi Heritage, who became the first indigenous vice president and Supreme Court Justice of Liberia that became pivotal in Garvey's UNIA Liberia dream. They need to know about the Grebo House of Representatives, Frederick Wiley Tobo, proud of Maryland, not the state of Maryland. Understand that there is a county, or in Liberia has their own state with the name of Maryland. I just want to make that distinction. They need to know about Elijah Johnson and his refusal to be under British rule and the rule of the American Colonization Society. They need to know about Susanna Lewis, the chairwoman of the committee responsible for designing the Liberian flag and a member of the Ladies Benevolent Society of Monrovia. Every Liberian child should know the great legacy they came from. They came from a proud legacy, a leading legacy, and a legacy that is meant to create leaders that will benefit the whole of Liberia and will lead West Africa, the continent, and the diaspora. Every Liberian should be proud to read out loud their Declaration of Independence and Constitution, wave their flag, and sing their national anthem. These are the brothers who left here and formed the Supreme Court in Liberia. Robert Richardson, Zachariah Roberts, and James Jenkins Dozen. It takes a collective effort to build Liberia from Grand Cape Mount to Maryland. Liberia needs everyone, especially her best and brightest from abroad, whether they be in America, Europe, Ghana, Australia, or Liberia. Needs her diaspora back. Liberia needs her African American population. Liberia needs her Afro-Caribbean population. The great Ida B. Wells said in her piece, Afro-Americans and Africa in the AME Church, the need of Liberia is the development of her resources, for this takes capital, skilled labor, and intelligent direction. To our Black engineers, all of you STEM folks out there, Liberia needs you. To our Black financial advisors and economists, Liberia needs you. To our Black doctors, Liberia needs you. To our Black farmers, animal scientists, Liberia needs you. To our Black healthcare professionals, fast food workers, beautician and construction workers, we are all needed. You matter, and all of your skills will be needed to build this republic. Why do I emphasize the African American and Afro-Caribbean populations? African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans are Liberians. Liberia is a reflection of us. Liberia is us. The fate of Black America, the Caribbean, and Liberia are intertwined with each other. Black America can't rise without Liberia. The Caribbean can't rise without Liberia. Liberia and her people can't rise without their brothers and sisters from across the Atlantic Ocean. Liberia was able to build her status because both sides had a vested interest in the country. A strong Liberia would inspire Black people in America and the Caribbean. It's what made Liberia attractive to Marcus Garvey, Henrietta Vinton Davis, Bill Russell, Maya Angelou, and Nina Simone. The crewman Polano Gabe Wallow noted in his article, What of Liberia? Is the crisis that for the colored Americans, Liberia is one great opportunity. Africa cannot rise without the rise of Liberia. As Africa's oldest republic, Liberia should be at the forefront of African leadership on issues such as climate change, women's empowerment, security, economic growth, human development. It should be a country that should want to take on the task. It should motivate us. It should energize us. It should remind not only Africa, but the world that the star remains a beacon of light. I just want us to understand where it all comes from. These great leaders told us, the bedrock is Liberia. And if we don't reclaim, because what's going on in Liberia right now is problematic. In fact, this recent election has become problematic. I think Brother Tad, a video of President Way in an interview with Roly Poly, and he was talking about the significance of Liberia. So In order to claim independent, you got to claim the first. You got to get back the first. And it could be a viable resource for others. Again, we're going to have to change some of the things that happened. Remember, the first African president, the first African head of state came from Virginia.
Sister Keisha,
Ahead,
I want to jump in here real quick because like I just said, you know, I'm gonna have to do some more studying, because from my understanding about Liberia being a colony from the US as it was, you know, so there's things that I'm not clear about. So when they say it's the first republic, but again, this is something that was manufactured by the Europeans, because as Sister Marcia pointed out, the Berlin Conference of 1884, you know, where they divided and created these countries and borders. So even with that, it's almost, my mind is still thinking NAACP-ish. You know what I'm saying? Here's something supposed to be great for us, but again, it's created by the ops. You know, so I'm definitely gonna have to look deeper into that, because yeah, that's the whole reason right there of Liberia being carved out by the, what was that, the American Colonization Society.
Yes.
By the American, and they got that, if I'm not mistaken, from King George, I believe it was, gave them that land, say, all right, y'all can go over there and do this, because many people may or may not know that the United States of America is still a subject to the British Crown. And in fact, the British Crown still owns any place that's called the Commonwealth state, like Virginia and the likes, from Virginia up to some states up in New England. I can't think of them off head because that's not my point. My point is that these are still manufactured European powers. So I'm trying to see, what is the sovereignty when people took you from a land, then gave you back a piece of land, and say, all right, this is your block now. You go back over there. So how do we really make that work for us is the thoughts and ideas I have bouncing around in my head.
Well, I'm sorry to interject, brother. Well, we can carve our place, right? The UNIA has been doing some great works in Liberia. I haven't visited, so I can't say off my lips, but I can say off videos. They have a UNIA farm in Liberia, which is great, teetering off of what Garvey tried to establish before he was sent to prison. But my whole thing, to caveat on what Tad is saying, the whole idea of this Americo system that they were trying to build in Liberia, they also have so many US companies that purchase so much land with 99-year leases on these lands. I think we can absolutely find our space anywhere on the continent, anywhere on this land, if we're truly about our business. But there is places for us to go. I know the UNIA for a fact, because I am a member, has done some works there. But how do we interject ourselves, as Brother Tad was saying? How do we play a major role without bringing one of the major points? And also, I'm going to jump all around for a second. While we were teenagers, Liberia was fighting a 14-year war while we were teenagers. And this 14-year war is why within that brother's article, I could give some applause, because children have been disconnected from their story. And this is one of the reasons why Europeans always want a war, because then they can disconnect you from your lineage. They can disconnect you from understanding who you were, where you came from. Yeah, I totally agree. Re-embarking that knowledge on continentals, the same way we have to re-embark on knowledge, they do too. They've lost a lot of stories in their many transitions. So have we. So we have to be mindful of that. And my last point is that we have to be mindful of going into other countries with some of our Western ideas, because, you know, I don't remember the whole history, but I know that they said when they established that Supreme Court, there was a lot of pushback from the people on the ground because it was coming from there, coming here. So that whole idea of we're trying to bring the best of what America has onto a continent or what we've gained from America, but we have to be mindful on how the people of that land is going to treat that information without right context. But that's all. I jumped around a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you
Now you
and
good.
Tad's points are valid. And continuing that, we have to remember that, as Tad says, the idea of white supremacy is what rules the world. It's the idea of it, right? So you have a mulatto man who was a businessman. He was a free black man born because his mother was free. His mother, I think, had him at the age of maybe 14 or 15 years of age. But it's rumored that his father was a Welshman, but it's also stories out here that he is also the son of Thomas Jefferson, right? So again, this is what I'm saying. We have to pull back layers. Doing that, change the mindset so that as we move forward into the future, we do not make these same mistakes again, right? We do not, and as far as taking Western culture, we have to be careful with that, right? Because when we say Western culture, we have to identify white supremacist culture, because those of us who are melanated, who live on this plane, we have our own culture as well, right? And this was one of the great things that happened with this mixture of the Afro-Caribbean, the African American, and the Liberian. This is what some of their leaders wanted to do, but of course, Joseph Jenkins was working for the American Colonization Society. They too had their own agenda, right? So even though they helped make their colony the first African republic, remember I said their colony, the first African republic. What the president of Liberia now is asking is that we make it our own, that we learn the lessons of the past, right? And so this is why so many are now talking about Liberia's history, is so that we fix these problems and we don't make the same mistakes again. Because we have to live as a melting pot. In fact, in some of Garvey's writings, he talks in one of his great speeches, he talks about intertwining these cultures, that African Americans should marry those in the Caribbean or the continent, so that we understand and we get a self realization that we do have different cultures and different tribal beliefs. And that's the beauty of it. Trying to convince someone to live your belief or your culture is the problem. You have to know how to govern all of it, right? So let's take people who travel here to this country. Black Americans are so welcoming to everybody, to everybody. You can live how you want to live, wave your flags, do what you want to do, have parades. There is no other place on the planet where Black Americans go and have a parade on behalf of their own. But other people come here and do it, no problem. Because we understand everybody has their own tribal cultures. We're trying to get the rest of the world to understand that. That's what we're trying to do. So think about whether you like it or not, the Caribbean Day Parade is heavily promoted, but the African American Day is not. There is a reason for that. And we have to pull back these layers, as my brother Tad like to always say, so that we don't make these same mistakes over again. Now, when people talk about Barack Obama being the first mixed black man head of state. That's not true. Here it is. The original JJ. In fact, that was his nickname. They called him JJ. When you look through his diaries, he wrote plenty of them. And the University of Massachusetts has a whole lot of them. Has a whole lot of our great folks' works. Believe it or not, the University UMass has a lot of it. But anyway, they referred to him as JJ. He again had the agenda of the American Colonization Society, but those in the parliament and those in the original Supreme Court were fighting against him and that colonization society. So there were warring factions because, they came with trinkets. They try to rule. They, as a matter of fact, their constitution was sort of similar to the U.S. Constitution when you read it, right? What I don't want people to walk away with is saying that, well, when the African Americans were there, they colonized and tried to enslave the natives there. What happened was there were tribal beefs, right? Now, those black folks who moved into Liberia, some people would say they stole parts of Liberia, but they didn't. They paid for it. In fact, it's written in their constitution. They paid for it. So they can do what they want. You go to Macy's and buy a shirt, Macy's could give two hoots what you do with the shirt as long as you pay for it. So we got to tell the whole story. Go ahead, sis.
The question is, does everybody know that the land was purchased?
Yes.
That's where the tribal wars come in. Because when the chiefs are doing their businesses and don't tell the people that you got to move out, you got to push forward. I've re-established you over here. This is where you'll be from now on. That's the larger question of, do the ground know what's happening up top? And I think that's one of our biggest problems even today. Big people over there having conversations and you don't know. Even here in America, when redlining started, there were folks that didn't know what was happening because they were in the interiors of the land. And so they don't know. And then all of a sudden, I can't see Kim no more. Charlie down the block. I gotta go around the corner, down the road again to fish Charlie, and then you start losing contact with people. I think that's just really important for us to understand when things are happening on the ground. And lastly, the same way the Haitian Constitution was rewritten and sounds very similar in 1915 to the U.S. Constitution, when those people lay their hands on your rights, on who you are, you got to be mindful. And you got to roll back, like you said, roll back, because there is another land constitution that belongs to the people of Liberia. They just got to reach out and search for it. But that's it for me.
Yeah,
yes, indeed.
I just want to say real quick, Sister Keisha, real quick. Sister Marcia made a great point in the beginning of this segment when she was talking about the Berlin Conference. We have to understand the Berlin Conference was spurred because the transatlantic slave trade had just been abolished. Americans were, well, for the most part, what is now known as the United States, American or Africans in America were freed at that time. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? Because at that time, most of the European so-called powers at that time were fighting everywhere. And they were like, yo, we got to carve this thing up. It's like how drug dealers carve up neighborhoods today. Okay, as long as he's not on this side of the street and he over there doing his thing, that's them over there. We got us over here. And then you already know it's going to be eventually a beef, because somebody's going to cross the street and get it from the guy across the street as opposed to from you. So it was a confusing time for them and us at that time. And that's kind of how it got settled again, with us taking the short end of the stick and, of course, them winning out. But now we in this day and age, and it's all turning around.
Good point, brother. Good point.
Well, we also had, because a lot of times we talk about the Berlin Conference of 1884, and this is how deep they go. But we can't forget the Meridian Conference in 1884 too, when they decided the longitude, latitude, because what they started doing was carving up the planet, creating their time zones, creating their reality, because that's what true power is. You know, you create a reality and get everybody else to subscribe to it. That's what we see with the Rainbow Skittle umbrella community doing right now. Changing the language, changing identity, changing everything, making us adapt to their paradigm when we have our own that we want to live in. So anytime we talk about the Berlin Conference of 1884, can't forget the Meridian Conference also, because that determined the longitude, latitude, and that started saying, all right, what land mass is going to be, which time zone is this going to be, and what country is going to fall under here, there. And it's all about world dominance, you know, because we're talking about colonization. Again, when we peel back the layers, you could just see it as colonization. You see it as one small territory when they're globally trying to push their rule and their way of life on everyone else. And this is why when we talk about Barack Obama, this is why we knew he was going to get a black president, because he had to get the African world to adopt to the Skittle rainbow situation that they was trying to force, because everybody know that's not in our nature. The one thing I say about the Black Revolution that's different than every other revolution on the planet is that we are trying to restore things back to its natural state. Being the children of the Creator, being the children of the Son. We're trying to put things back to its natural state because we know the ops is coming taking things out of its natural state. You are stealing land. They go to places, people welcome them with open arms. You're stealing what we were willingly giving you for free. We were giving you food, clothing, and shelter. And in return, you turned around and murdered us. We taught you how to clean yourselves. You turn around and enslave us and give us a God in your image. And tell us if we don't worship this God in your image, you're going to kill us. So to this day, we still run around with white men on our necks and walls, talking about that is God. We got to realize what we're really fighting here. And that's why it's important that we know who we are and be our authentic self. Stop romanticizing everything. Stop romanticizing religion. Stop romanticizing cult groups. Be your authentic self. We was born on purpose and with a purpose. And until you find out what your purpose is, you're going to be a sucker for everybody. You're going to trade in one form of oppression for another. And that's all I'm standing on. Brooklyn in the house. What?
All day, every day. All day, every day. Let me play this clip.
African country has a connection to Michael Jackson, a World Footballer of the Year winner, an American president, and the American Civil War. This is the country's flag. This is the American flag. You know why they look so similar? It's because this country was created by freed American slaves. I had no idea. The country's name is Liberia. Its capital is Monrovia, named after former US President Monroe, and I'm going to tell you why its origin holds many lessons for Black people all over the world, especially those in America considering going back to Africa. Pay attention. It was Michael Jackson that first made me aware of Liberia with his song Liberian Girl off the Bad album in 1987. Tough track. Then George Weah won World Player of the Year in 1995 and scored one of the craziest goals you will ever see when you ran the full field and put it in the bottom left. He went on to become president of Liberia and raised awareness about his country. But I never knew Liberia was founded as a result of an American initiative to repatriate freed slaves back to Africa over a century ago. An organization called the American Colonization Society sent ships from New York to West Africa in the early 1800s with the first settlers. It was hazardous as hell with a mortality rate of 40%. That was the highest recorded of any settlement in modern history. The thing is, there were already people on the land that was to be their new home, and they displaced the indigenous tribes to establish Liberia. What African country has a...
I love it. I'm sorry it froze up, family. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. They messing with the internet over here. It is what it is. I live in those areas where, you know, conservation area. All my wiring is outside, so sometimes it happens. But I just love his voice.
There was outages today all over the country.
Really?
Yeah, I think as things wind down, They're gonna start messing with people's internet. My stuff get messed with all the time. I was trying to like YouTube videos earlier, was sending them to a totally different page that had nothing to do with like or not liking it.
Brother
Crazy.
Black, you sure it ain't Mercury retrograde?
Say again, brother.
Sure it's not Mercury is in retrograde?
Nah, I was under some Hegelian dialectic.
Okay. Totally got you.
To point out that the brothers both cut out when our man came on the line.
No, I did that on purpose.
I think it's the solar flares.
I think Tad really on 149th and 3rd Avenue right now.
Everybody on punishment. Everybody on punishment. You know,
yes, baby.
You
in Saratoga, New York.
You all just revealed that y'all got a lot of behind whoopings when you.
I'm on Atlantic and Cortelu right now.
Here they go. Here they go. But Sister Marcia, that was our man over there. Don't you just love his narration of history?
Yes, yes. And you know what I appreciate about this one? That he said, I never knew. You know, the honesty about not knowing. And I think that sometimes when you're reviewing stuff and when you start studying stuff, just be honest and truthful that I never knew. And here's a summary of what I found out. You know, sometimes I feel like people feel like they must have known this all their lives. And when it comes down to our story, there's so many things that we have yet to discover or talk about. So it's, yeah, our guy gives a nice breakdown.
Yes, indeed. And as I said, or we said last week, so much of our history is now being remixed, right? And made palatable for, other people to enjoy and for other people to get involved in. So, shout out to him. You guys can follow him on Instagram if you want to. East by Blog, if you want to. He's also on YouTube, I believe. So you can follow that if you want to. But I want to talk about, because Brother Black brought it up early, and I'm going to let him take this one to lead us off. There are many protests in the city of Chicago. A lot of Black people are fed up with the shenanigans. We talked about it as well here on this platform too. But Brother Black, what are you seeing now, in Chicago with what's happening with the Black citizens who are fed up with the Democratic Party and their treatment of Black people there?
Great question, sis. This is how I look at it. This is a great point, and I hope somebody from the Chi is on this call or on this show, on watching the show, and can bring this to life in the Chi, because what I think is this is a chance for gang truce so that they could, be on point when these migrants get the word to set it off. Because if you got the gangster disciples fighting the some other folks, that's Chicago terminology for other people, ops, whatever you want to call it. If you got folks fighting folks, then who's fighting the real ops that you don't even know nothing about? At least you kind of know who your ops is, but can you form alliances? And what an alliance means, it ain't your friend. It's a convenient situation to gang up against some ops. You don't know what they doing there. They already proven they the ops because they coming in there and they being who they are. So y'all gotta, get it together. Some of the OGs in Chicago got to get it together with the the young G's in the street and let them know, hey man, nobody coming in here and changing the game. So if y'all want to be out there doing illegal stuff, know that at any moment you might be fighting the cops and the ops. Yeah, go ahead, sis. I'm listening.
So the question is,
see, we lost Sister Keisha.
Now she'll be right back in.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
The question is, with the whole idea of ops and alliances and stuff like that, and the elders stepping forward, there still has to be a code. I wonder if I don't live in Chicago, so I'm just gonna have a wonder conversation with you brothers about what is their code, because if they're fighting amongst each other each and every day, how can they realize that there is an enemy in front of them and it's not someone that looks like them? It's just so hard. We see it here too. Like, if we just work together, we could advance, but we're not working together. So how are we going places?
Well, I'm gonna let Tad address that one.
Hold on one second. And if there is no eldership guiding the conversation and helping people realize, like you said, there's an enemy over there, and form an alliance so that you can fight the true enemy. If you don't know who your true enemy is and you think your brother is your true enemy, how do we flesh that out and create a common ground?
Tad, I'm gonna let you get that one, bro.
Well, we know it was all intentional. We know over 20 years ago, the late 90s, early 2000s. See, first of all, let's take it back to the showbiz industry. Let's take it back to the music, the videos, the promotion of gang life and gang culture in our community. Black, I think you can attest to this. Remember in the 80s when we first really learned that Crips and Bloods is a real thing and dudes in California were killing each other over colors.
Right.
They said it's going to come to New York. We said, you bugging. Dudes in New York is not jacking that. We not rocking with that Crips and Blood stuff.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the late 90s, early 2000s, here you are. You got the Bloods in New York, in the jails. All of this is being done intentionally and reinforced with the music videos because they, like I always say, they're paying these young people millions of dollars to sell self-destruction in our community. But now when we talk about Chirac in particular, in that time, they were still locking up all the OGs. Remember, 1998, 1999 is 3-4 years after the Million Man March. The spirit of the Million Man March was still alive and kicking. Black men were in the community. We were talking to our young people. That's a threat to the society. So what did they start doing? Promoting more negative music in our community, putting more drugs in our community, and then locking up all the OGs that would talk to the young people. Back then, I was in my late 20s. Early 2000s, late 90s, I was in my late 20s. So I'm old enough to know better, but still young enough to have a connection with the little dude still on the street who's 18 and 19, because now you see me as an OG. And I'm giving you the game. That dude on the next block is not the ops. The ops is the police who keep locking everybody up and killing everybody for when you quote unquote retaliate. Fast forward to Kanye talking about let's get Larry Hoover out because Larry Hoover grew up, said we on a different time. Same thing with our brother, the one that was murdered that started the Crips.
Tukey.
All of the men who had the greatest influence on the gang culture, who started it when they were young and didn't know better, had time to sit down, think, reevaluate, and redeem themselves. Because as sure enough, we talk about Kwame Nkrumah, we call him Asajifo, which means the Redeemer. Many of us in our own community are Asajifos. We are redeemers. We realize the error of our ways, being 15, 16, 17, getting involved in street life because it was easier to get a gun and drugs than it was to get a job. All of those of us that learned the lesson, they removed us. So now there was a gap in the early 2000s of all the OGs being locked up, and who's left to run the streets? The little kids. What are they listening to? The $1 Million music that's saying kill each other. This is done intentionally. You had what's I do? Farrakhan step in. He even worked with the Catholic priest. What's his name? Michael Flager, the one who was talking about them intentionally dropping military-grade weapons in alleys and subway cars in Chicago. That's how these little dudes get these guns. 13, 14 years old, you got a $2,000 gun. Where you getting this money from?
Same in East New York, bro. They was doing it in New York too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They are dropping crates of weapons. And I know that to be a fact because, yeah, I know it to be a fact. I was young in New York before. And this is military grade. Some of it still had military tags on it. Where's this stuff coming from? When we heard it in Boys in the Hood, we don't fly that in here. We don't own that. When Larry Fishburne character Furious Styles was dropping jewels, all of that was the truth. They are literally flying that stuff in here, giving us weapons, the false sense of power, and then got music to reinforce this stuff, playing with young impressionable psychology. And
But
this
if
is why there's no code no more, because you remove the OGs. They have no guidance. They have no elders. So by the time you come out of jail, you ain't got no money and you're not getting involved in the street. And these little dudes been out here doing it on their own without you. So they feel they don't need you no more. And this is all done intentionally, is my point. I was locked up in 2001. Damn near everybody in New York was locked up. I'm talking about I'm in Brooklyn House with 40 dudes from Harlem. Like, if you're from Harlem, why are you here? They say, because there's too many of us. They spread us all over New York. Dudes who wasn't even involved in the game. This was all done intentional. And I remember this like it was yesterday, because they were just locking everybody up for any and everything. Remember, they was calling it equality.
Yesterday. But brother, it was your yesterday. It
Right.
was, you know, like
this
all
is my
the
point
things
to
that
answer
people
your question. Hold on, this is my point to answer your question, because I was there. Like I always say, I was there. Not just looking at it, not reading it, but literally living, breathing, and eating this stuff. First time I looked at my plate in the cell, I started crying. They gave us mush. No lie, they gave us chicken bones with chicken skin and tomato sauce. That was for dinner. And I cried in my plate. Because my point is, all of this is done intentional. Showing up, we know slavery is intentional. We know Jim Crow laws was intentional. Segregation, this crime, entertainment, guns in our community. They would never put no guns in the hood in the 60s. Why? Because we were clear on who the enemy was.
The homes in the 60s.
I'm sorry?
There is a pattern. They put drugs in the homes in the
Right.
system.
First.
You know, so like, you know, 40
To
years,
pacify us.
40 years before that, it was alcohol. There's always a pattern. There's always a pattern. The question is, how do we break the cycle? Because if we look through 40 years, 20 years, 100 years, how many years we want to look at, we will see the pattern. Now is a prime time for us to work on.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We could be doing anything right now.
We could be.
Anything every week.
But we're dedicating our 2 hours right here.
No, that's just 2 hours on the internet.
Right here. That's what I said.
So
let me answer that question real quick.
What we can do, but I'm gonna give you the mic, Blacksmith. But that's why I always say, let's live in our authenticity. Let's just be who we are. We can't be super Negro. We can't change everything. Small habits make a big change. As long as we're consistent and who we are, what we stand for, and sincere and saving our nation, we're gonna be all right. Nobody could do it overnight. None of these, Harriet Tubman couldn't do it overnight, Frederick. Nobody we named, the greatest. Garvey couldn't do it. Elijah Muhammad couldn't do it. Nobody. But it takes the effort of so many of us. But we have to constantly keep these conversations going. And what we have to do is stop subscribing to Sexy Red and Sukiana Johnson. You know what I'm saying? We have to flush them people out. That's his wife, right? They didn't get married?
You married her off? You married her off?
I'm saying they didn't get married at the school. My bad. I stand corrected. But anyway, we have to stop giving these glorified harlots light.
Absolutely.
One is promoting whole culture in our community. If we know anything about our relationship with them, they always justified the rape of Black women, saying she wanted it. Look at how she behaved. Same thing they did with Sarah Bartman, our Venus Hottentine. Said, look at her, she's enticing men. No, you just don't know how to control yourself.
And just remember, all the women of that time used to wear these corsets and bodices and all these things just to make themselves look like women. We are the epitome of all people. We are their mothers and their fathers, but we want to be less than their babies. You know, Like, I totally agree with everything that you said, brother, because you were right on black with that.
But you know what, Sister Marcia, the reality was when I was gone, and so many of my brothers, some of them are still gone. They still, right before COVID, I went to check one of my brothers who just hit him with like 30-something years. My nephew's 30-something years. My whole thing was, who's going to raise my children? Who's going to raise my daughters? Who's going to raise my sons? Granted, my father was here, and I'm so thankful for him because soon as I was gone, he was on the front line, you know, stepping in. But that's what a village does. But if you don't have that connection with your family, if you allow the ops to let you disconnect yourself, call it a generation gap or whatever you want to call it, to keep us separated, then you've already lost. But if you be your authentic self and know that you love your family love you, and that's your clan, that's your team, that's your village, not the Bloods, not the Crips, but your blood family. You want to honor elders, honor grandma and uncle in them. That's in your family. Don't look to the people in your cultural organization as your elders. Yeah, they got a place, but you got real bloodline elders that's there. Honor them. Respect them, even if they got their own personal struggles. You be the light within the family. Like Duke just said, look what I learned. Look what I learned. Sit with grandma and ask about family history. You'd be surprised how she loves to tell you. I always ask my grandma, who's the oldest elder? Who's the oldest relative you remember in your family when you were a child? And they say, you know what? My grandmother or my great grandmother named such and such. Start the conversation from there and bring it on down. I got mine recorded. But this is, to your question, these are the things we can do. We can have conversations with our children. We can show them pictures of our elders, say, this is who you are, this, that, and the third. Like I got a on my father's side, he has an uncle named Cash and an uncle named Buddy. I never knew that, but my son Kevin, I call him Kev Cash, and my son called him Buddy. My grandchildren, Uncle Kevin, Uncle Buddy. Kev Cash. It's funny how repeated
itself. Yeah.
Not only that, they live on that way too, bro.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This conversation we have to have with our children. Children think their bloodline start with their favorite rapper.
Yeah.
That's what they think. Yeah. Just answer your question. I'm gonna step off my soapbox.
Wait. To your point, this is the same type of reconnection that all of our people could do wherever they are. Because remember, I was talking about the 14-year war in Liberia. So many of people that are our age right now are disconnected from so many things because there was a war. So many people died. So many people, there was an influx of Liberians coming into New York at one particular time during the late
90s, early 2000s.
Thank you. From the war. The war. And all of those people need to be able to do a reconnection like you did, that genealogy, and start it as small as finding the oldest living relative you have in your family. And I pray that there is one for you, but it is so vast, the trouble that our children and some of our friends face when you don't want to do that reconnection pattern. And it's so important to becoming your greatest self and living your Ma'atin life.
Ashe.
You wanted to say something?
No, because what I was going to say is Sister Keisha just hit me. She's not going to be able to get back in.
Okay.
And it's 10 o'clock already.
It is.
Yeah, just turned 10. Yeah.
My goodness. So
Tad, you gonna host the show from here on.
That's right.
There you go. She putting you on the spot. She was fronting with that. There was outages on the internet. She trying to let you know you taking over from here on. So I'm gonna let you have it.
The show is called Thorough Tad's Talk. That's it. So,
in the boogie down.
But now, yeah, Brother Black, you got any last words before we peel up out of here?
Oh man, it was a great show. I'm sorry my sis ain't here, but I'm sure she hearing me in spirit and in life and in all that good stuff. Just hang on. It's crazy how during this whole show, nobody talked about Israel Hamas. You know what I'm saying? They're two of the biggest things going on right now. Man, we gonna be all right, man. I'm just concerned with y'all up in New York because I know it's a gang load of Jews up there and a gang load of Palestinians, and you know it's a powder keg. But y'all just hang tight and stay on that bridge, man. I'm writing about all this stuff at my blog. It's called melaninforever.blogspot.com. I broke down the other day of the connection between everything that's happening, even weather related. Let me get the name of that article for y'all so y'all could just know where I'm coming from. Excuse me, I'll be right back. 1 second, and then I'm gonna pass the mic. But definitely it's going down. Everything's going down. We just gotta hang tight. The name of the article is that explain. It's basically a breakdown of how everything that's happening, especially in what just happened in New York, Acapulco, and a few other places, and how that's going down. The name of the article is "Your Reparations Money Went to Ukraine and Israel." And that was on my blog. Again, I'm gonna say it real quick: melaninforever.blogspot.com. I got a book called Boom Bye Bye Hip Hop Will Never Die. It's an expose on the entertainment industry, as well as my first book, which is called I Ain't Perfect But Take It From Me. Oh, here comes Sister Keisha right there. So
yeah,
perfect on time. And you know, just we're gonna be all right, like you said, brother Tad, and brother sister Marcia. You know, hopefully everybody out here can pass this on to at least 5 groups in their social media. You know, Instagram, Facebook, what have you, Twitter, and or to people that you think might need this, especially the last segment where we talked about how young people can at least learn how to gang alliance, like what happened in '92. During the Rodney King riots. So if y'all need a precedent to know that y'all bangers out there might need to gang up with each other as opposed to opposing each other, you have an example to look at. And that was during when O.J. Simpson got
acquitted.
After O.J. Simpson and Rodney King got his ass whipped and the cops didn't go to jail or anything like that. So again, melaninforever.blogspot.com. I'm Elias Flavius on Facebook if you want to get at me. And I'll see y'all on the bridge next week. How's that? Peace.
Peace. Sister Marcia.
Well, just recognize the pattern of the war, people. There are patterns of war in your personal lives and patterns of war in the bigger life. Nothing's changed. Everything is being repeated. Know your story. Understand who you are. And I just want great things for our people. I believe we can achieve great things if we get our minds right. With that said, may time flourish. Sister Keisha, good to have you back. Brother Tad, thank you again.
No doubt. All right. All right, family. I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. You know, I want to thank our
computer shenanigans.
It's freezing again, ain't it? I see you, sis. I see you moving. All right. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. Thank you to our brother Kev from Chucktown, Sister Farnessa, Sister Joyce, everybody who tuned in. You know, our brother Ray, brother Peace, the whole family out there, you know, who constantly have been rocking with us for years. We thank you. And to all our new listeners, we thank you very much. So hopefully you learned something tonight and you were inspired by what you heard. It's your turn to go out and inspire others. And it's something I'm going to start doing because I got a library and I want y'all to know that I'm not pulling this out the sky. My segment has been sponsored by Dr. Amos Wilson's book, The Falsification of African Consciousness. And what's the other book? Oh, Gotti Farage, Our Story. Hold on. Let me just show you real quick. Dr. Amos Wilson's book, The Falsification of African Consciousness. You got to get into that. You got to read that. And from Gotti Faraj, our story. Our story, Africans from antiquity to the 21st century. You do good to get this one too. All right. So hopefully you are inspired. Your turn to go out and inspire others. So y'all stay up, stay blessed, stay true. And remember, no matter how hard things may seem right now, it's always better days ahead. Sister Keisha. Sister Keisha. Oh, they froze her again.
Yeah, she froze up, bro.
Oh, they doing my
Sorry
sister.
about family have internet issues. It is what it is. I apologize for that. But as my brother said, you know, thank you for joining us for another week. We glad to be black with you. See you next week on the BK Bridge, family. We out, y'all. Y'all have a great week and good night.
Cocoa puffs.